and whatever other thing I bought.
I had to wait for the song, Dan. That was a cool song, right? Hey, what's going on? It's Throck. I got some questions today on the Welcome to the Party Discord that were about I'm not really sure how to use all the different bits about Roll20 and would like to know how to use it better. And so I thought, hey, this is a perfect time to do maybe a little stream that turns into a YouTube video, as we'll be launching a YouTube channel soon that will have all of our different videos on it, all of our different streams, and all that sort of good stuff. So I thought it would be a great time to kind of talk about Roll20, maybe turn down the music a little bit, right? There we go. All right. And kind of talk people through how to do it, both as a player and a DM. I actually wrote notes out. That's how prepared I am, because I'm a crazy person. All right. So I won't do much ado here. If you've never been on the Welcome to the Party channel before, we are a variety gaming channel, I guess a variety role-playing channel that focuses on bringing people into the game, kind of teaching them how to play D&D or the role-playing games, and also teaching new streamers how to stream D&D who want to stream it, or other role-playing games. I primarily play D&D, which is why you keep hearing me say that. But yeah, so let's get started. So you're a new GM, and if you're like me and your friends live all over the country, but you really want to run a game for them, Roll20 is a great platform for it. There's a couple of different platforms out there. The big competitor is not Tabletop Simulator, Fantasy Grounds, but I found that to be more expensive in general for the players, and I didn't want to put a burden on my players when playing the game, and I'm perfectly okay assuming some of the cost of actually running the game as the Dungeon Master. That's kind of my responsibility, so that's why I chose Roll20. So let's set up a game, right? I'm going to just start a whole new game here. Once you've created your account, you can just go to your games thing, and you can create a new game from there, or you can create a game from your recent game stream, and I'll just do it from or from this one apparently, because we got extra clicks. There we go. And I can call this whatever I want. We'll call this stream example. And then here's the big deal: if you're playing D&D or whatever you're playing, Roll20 has character sheets for you. There are, just as you can see, a ton of them on here for nearly every game out there. I can tell you the Burning Wheel ones are really, really great. I'm pretty sure the Dark Heresy ones are good. Many of these have been created by folks who are volunteers, who just kind of create it in their free time and put together what is generally a really good product. I can tell you specifically for Mouse Garden D&D that they're really excellent with full functionality and lots of little gubbins and options to change all over the place, which we're going to get to in just a second. So let me choose a D&D sheet. As you can see, there's just a huge number of them here, right? And so the one you're going to want to choose if you're running D&D, as you can see, there's just a ton of them. There's just a lot. I would highly recommend using the OGL one by Roll20. It is the most optimized to use all the different stuff in the game. As you can see here, you got all the different stuff you can do with it, which is great. And we're not going to go deeply into the character sheet at this point, but this is kind of the one I always have my players use because, well, I'm used to it, and because it's compatible with a really powerful tool within Roll20 itself, which is actually super helpful for both players and DMs, called the Roll20 Compendium, which we'll get to in a second. So I'm not going to put any tags. On Roll20, you can also openly invite people if you go to the community link. Oh god, no, stop! Doink! And so I'm ready to create game. I create the game. Alright, so here you are at the basic. As a GM, this is the first screen you're going to see, and it's got a bunch of different stuff. You could go in and launch the game, but as a DM or a GM, the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to go into your game settings. Because this is going to allow you to kind of futz with a bunch of different stuff. So starting off on the top, you can choose who you want to have access to the game. You can make your game look pretty, like give it a little magic background, right? Ooh, it moves. If it lets me click on it. There we go. There is a tool in Roll20 called the Character Vault, which allows you to create characters outside of the game, and so you can either let them import or just force them to build a new character in-game. None of my players use the Character Vault, but you may find people who do, so your mileage is going to vary on that. And then the game default settings, so you don't really need to worry about this right now. Its defaults are relatively fine. This is literally showing you things that you're going to see when you go into the actual game itself anyways, and I'll just show those to you then because it's going to be more customizable in there than it is here. This is just setting your general, if you create a new page, what that page will start off with. Actually, there's one thing in here that I didn't know you could do. You see player permissions here, and this will come in a minute when setting up your characters with their sheets and stuff like this. I've always gone through and clicked everybody needs to see everyone's name directly on their character, but you can do it here. So in the future, I'm going to be doing that. I'm learning things as we go. So this is the compendium that I was talking about. You can, based on the character sheet, they have compendiums for Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon World, and Pathfinder, so if we got any Pathfinder players out there, you can also use this for that, and what it allows you to essentially do is drag and drop information onto the character sheet directly, and that's super helpful. I know for D20 it's only got the SRD basic information, and so there's still spells you'll have to fill in, but there are a number of, probably 75% of the PHB spells are in the SRD. And so we'll be able to be just dragged and dropped into a character sheet. Now, last but not least, you have all this crap down here. To me, the ones that are the most important for D&D, and it's going to change, of course, depending on your game, I always make this to advantage toggle, and what that does is it puts a little thing up here, right? So on your player's character sheet, they'll be able to just click on advantage to roll with advantage, and then click back to normal when they roll to normal, and if they have disadvantage, they can click to disadvantage, right? Which makes it much easier, and that way you're not getting spammed with 40 rolls, with 1d20, and it's always rolling advantage. I personally find that annoying to see, like, oh, you rolled 2 dice, that's super great. Why? Just roll 1. But that's just me. If you don't care so much, you don't need to worry too much about that. You can have all rolls whispered to you, or you can ask people if they want to whisper rolls. I never have people whisper rolls because you just roll them out in public, see what happens. You can choose to roll auto damage, and if you're playing a different system, you can choose a different die roll, all sorts of stuff to play with here. Is there anything else that's super important? Some people really care about the show global save modifier, right? I don't. It's literally never come into my game in any way. So, but some people like to have it on there for, what is it called? For reference, essentially. And yeah, that's kind of all the different gubbins. And the last thing is each of your characters that you see, each of the little tokens that'll show up on the map, will have the ability to have certain bars turned on, and you can kind of default set what those bars are, like life bars in video games, right? Same thing, exactly the same concept, but that's it. And then you can choose to make it look D&D or not D&D. I don't think there's a lot going on in the D&D styling, but it is what it is. It looks D&D-ish, I guess. All right, so now that I've done that, I can go back to my game. Boink! You're going to want to invite people, of course. Super easy to do. They provide you a link for the game, or you can plug in their email address, and then they'll have joined your game. If you plug in their email address, it sends them an email with that exact same link. Last thing you want to super care about on this page is the custom add-ons. For D&D, any of their marketplace purchases that are considered add-ons, right? So like Tales from the Yawning Portal, or Volo's Guide, or I would imagine Mordenkainen's when it comes out next month, you're going to be able to purchase those, and they will be automatically included into your SRD, or into your compendium. And so you won't even need to worry about loading them or like adding in the information. You'll just be able to look it up. And the last thing that you can add in, and the last thing I always add in, is if you're going to be a GM, I highly recommend becoming a pro member. And the reason why is because, first of all, you get free maps. Second of all, you get free tokens. You get free templates. You get all sorts of free crap for like $10 a month. I don't work for Roll20. I'm not sponsored by Roll20 or anything like that. But the tools that they give you are actually really, really helpful. So once you've invited your folks, you can launch the game. And you can do that before you invite your folks too, if you're just setting a bunch of stuff up. Whatever. Don't allow. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is actually creating characters within Roll20. Super easy. as the GM, you're going to have three places, I should say, on this layout where you have information that you can access or ways to manipulate Roll20. First of all, the top bar. This shows you all the maps, and see, these are all the free maps I get with just having a Roll20 thing. I just loaded these in and they're here. I don't have to build them, don't have to worry about them. They're already right size for the hexes, all that sort of good stuff. Or for the squares, they're just there, right? So this will be thing one, right? Here you can create new pages, and a new page is where you put a map, and you can set what you want that to be like. So this first bit here is the size of the page, and it starts off default at 25 by 25 hexes or squares, and each square is a 5-foot unit, which is perfect for D&D. You can tell it to have a grid. You can tell it to use either what kind of diagonal measurement you want it to have. I just call it 1 square for 1 square because it's not that big of a deal unless it's vertical, and then it's a little bit weirder. You can have it tell you what color you want the squares to be and how dark they are, all that sort of good stuff, right? When we get into importing images, I'm going to talk more about Fog of War, but essentially for now, just know that this top bar here is where all of your maps are going to go. That is your quick access play space. But the other two pieces here on the left-hand side, which I'm going to go into more in a minute as well, is kind of all your DMing tools, from being able to move around and highlight and select things to going through the different layers, which we'll talk about in a second, to drawing stuff. Give it to me. Thank you. To drawing stuff, to cool little effects, all sorts of different stuff, yeah? But let's talk about creating characters real quick. So when you create a character, you just go to Add, click on a character, put it in whosever journal you want. It can be edited and controlled by whoever the player is, and I also always make sure that the DM can see it. And by the way, I always put all characters in all players' journals. So, because sometimes you're just not going to remember a player's name or whatever, and this just allows you to have a quick visual reference of everybody who's playing. I think it's nice for the players as well, right? We'll get to tokens a little bit further down, but you can custom create tokens, and I'm going to share you guys a link that will allow you to custom create tokens on your own with a free tool. Just remember, there is such a thing as copyright. Try not to steal. But yeah, so that is the basics, right? Once you've done that, you've saved changes, and now you have a blank character sheet. That blank character sheet is assigned to me. If a player had signed up in that dropdown, you could see their bits as well. And so now you have your classic D&D character sheet. Yay. Super easy, right? Along with this, it automatically, once you choose level, you can choose whatever level you like. You can choose whatever class you like, and it will automatically pick for you whatever your special resources are, like second wind or sorcery points or key or anything like that. And it will also automatically pick your saving throws for you. Super helpful. And then as you level up, let's say I make this a level 8 fighter, boink, I now have a 3 proficiency bonus. Huzzah! And I have 8 hit dice. Easy enough. So it actually does a lot of the background work for you. And then we've got a bio page, of course, which is completely blank and just a place for you to either put all your cool extra magical gubbins, people you may have known. It's your notepad on the character sheet, essentially. And second to last tab here, and this is where one of the places where the SRD comes in really handy. As you can see up here in the right-hand corner, we've got chat. We've got all sorts of assets and stuff that I can play with. As you can see, I've got a ton. So this Pro Sets one down here, you get all for free. All of this stuff, which is full of stuff, just full of it, is for the freebies. I mean, well, not for free, for the $10 a month subscription, and I think is totally worth it, and a good place to start if you're looking to do a long-term campaign. It doesn't even matter what game. Some of this stuff is great for modern, some of it's great for future, some of, like there's space opera tokens, there's all sorts of stuff, right? That can just help you in running your game without you having to spend any more money than the basic subscription-y thing. But that is that. So on here, we have the spell sheet. So if I click on the little eye, that is the compendium. The compendium, I can look up anything. Like, let's look at Magic Missile. Boink. Hey, look, Magic Missile. So now what I can do is I can just drag and drop Magic Missile into here, and it's there. And it outputs all of its information. and casting at higher levels and all that sort of good stuff, right? It's got its range, it's got what its components are, everything. More importantly, it also now exists on the front page of my character sheet as an attack that I can output. Boink! So if I click on the chat, which is where you're going to see all your rolls and all that sort of good stuff, and then just click on Magic Missile, I can choose what level I want to cast it at. I'll just cast it at level 1. Boink! I'm now a fighter with Magic Missile who just did 14 points of damage. It's a really good Magic Missile, man. Yeah, almost max damage. That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, one other thing I failed to mention here is that all of your stats auto-update. So like if I put a 16 in, automatically get the +3, automatically have a +3 in athletics. I've got a 6 strength saving throw now. So it just does a lot of the background work for you. Last but not least, on the character sheets, something I always turn off, always, I turn off compendium compatible inventory, because this way you can just quickly write in your stuff. Because if it is compendium compatible, you have to like click plus, type in the little thing, it'll ask you how much it weighs. I don't know how many people actually use encumbrance. I don't really. I just judge if something is too heavy or not. And then the other thing I normally turn off is, where are you? Features and traits. I turn that to simple. And the reason I turn that to simple is because there are a lot of features and traits that are not covered in the SRD. Most of the players I play with are either experienced or for some reason have chosen something wacky to play for their first time. And that allows me, instead of adding things, which is what that does, right? I can, there would be one of these little plus buttons underneath features and trait, and it would add an entry. I can just be like, I am a fighter with Magic Missile. Right, so now I can just type in it. Same with equipment, because there's a lot of equipment that's not in the SRD. You can just put whatever you want in there. Cool, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so that is exactly how you help someone set up their character sheet, right? They're gonna know what their character is. I prefer point buy. I'm going on a little digression, but however you want to roll up their stats, you can plug them in. It'll automatically tell them what their bonuses are. They can just click the little box and say, okay, I'm a fighter. I probably want to have athletics. Makes some sense. And then yeah, that's it. That is character sheets. Hey, Poolpuri, how you doing? For you players, we're going to get to you on how to be helpful on your character sheet here in a little bit as well. But that is linking character sheets to players and the basic functionality of character sheets. All right, now let's really dive into your 4 bars, or your 3 bars, starting with the left-hand one, right? So roll 20. The first one is pretty simple, right? This is my pointy clicker, my clicky pointer, and I can just take stuff and move it around with. The other thing here I don't find super useful because it gets kind of tricky, but it allows you to like move around, but sometimes it gets stuck and that's no fun, but you can kind of, so just remember to, and this is the other thing, when you're going through these, it's a toggle, so you always have to remember to go back to what it, like the pointer when you're done with whatever you're doing. Next up is probably the most important tool. Are you gonna let me have it? What's going on, buddy? Oh, did I not set myself as GM? Oh, no. So on the next one here, which is this blue square, toggles the 4 different layers of the game. And for this, I'm going to bring up a map. Boink! So when switching maps, and we'll get to this in a second, there's a little red flag here. That's all your players are ever going to see. Even if I'm over here, players won't see it. If I'm on that one, players won't see it. They'll only ever see the one that the player flag is on. So let's go there real quick. Over here you have your little zoom out. Okay, so let's talk layers. There are 4 layers in Roll20. The bottommost layer is the dynamic lighting layer. Oh, these are already set up with dynamic lighting. Perfect. Okay, so when you're in the dynamic lighting layer, you can draw in barriers that block light. What that means is you can set players to have torches. You can set light sources on the map itself, and you can just set this thing up so it's blocking line of sight for anywhere they wouldn't reasonably be able to see, which is super duper helpful. It can get a little weird when you buy some of the modules and they're very precise. Like, I've had my players in rooms that are just full of pillars, And so each one of those pillars blocks line of sight, but it can kind of cause a mess in what the players are seeing. So I'll tend to delete those very small ones and just say, we'll just draw a ruler through it, and if you can't see, you can't see, and if you can, you can. But for big stuff, and for like crawling through dungeons, dynamic lighting is super helpful. And to show you how that works, I would have to have it turned on here, and then enforce line of sight. And enforced line of sight means that that player can only see what their token can see. And we'll get to tokens in a second, but if you enforce it, that means when dynamic light is just enabled, they can see, I'm pretty sure, they can see whatever any token can see. But if you enforce line of sight, they can only see what their token can see. You can also, and normally when they move the token, dynamic light will move dynamically with them. You can either restrict how they move, or you can create a global illumination. And what that means is that so if I click global illumination, the map will be lit, but blocking line of sight will exist. If there's no global illumination, your players will just see a black screen. So, don't be mean. Globally illuminate. Unless they're in a dark dungeon and they need a torch, and that's whatever. But so that is the first layer, right? You can create your own dynamic lighting very simply by going down to this tool here and creating lines, right? Create a polygon line, whatever color you want. It's gonna beep, beep, beep. I've now created, because this is on the dynamic lighting layer, I have now created an extra lighting barrier there that the player could not see through if they're on one side of it or the other. So that is layer number 1. I don't know why these are in a weird order, but layer number 2 is maps and backgrounds. So on maps and backgrounds, this is the very bottom layer that the players can see, and will always be able to see anything on maps and background. You can also, this is where the map lives, right? So when you put your map in, I think this defaults to objects and tokens. Make sure you put your map on the maps and backgrounds layer in order to not accidentally move it and throw everything out of proportion and everybody around when you're setting up your game, so that your players don't get angry and you waste a bunch of time in the middle of a game. You can also add things, of course, to the map, all sorts of little different stuff, and this is where we'll talk about assets for the first time. Let's take a look. What if I wanted to add a wheelbarrow, or just a wheel, or just learn how to spell? So I am 100% sure I have, cart. Yeah, here we go, cart. You have to know the right word for things, of course. Boink. So what if I want to put a cart down? I can put a cart down there, right? Yay. And the players will not be able to interact with it because it's on the map layer. It'll just hang out there. Of course, if you want them to move the cart, you're going to want it on the objects and tokens layer. But if you don't want to move the cart, leave it on the map and background. All sorts of stuff can be done that way, right? Like, if you have bodies you want to put down, I do that all the time for, like, if something horrible has happened where they're showing up, I'll put bodies on the map layer. I'll create campsites on the map layer. All sorts of stuff that allows you to kind of create the non-interactable space that is essentially your game mat. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of this so far? No, good, awesome, all right. So, next up is the GM layer. This is the layer that the players cannot see. If you're setting up an encounter, let's say I want to have some goblins. Goblins? Oh no, it would just be goblin, right? But I don't want the players to see them because they're being all sneaky. I would throw them on the GM layer. Now when I zoom in here, you'll see that they are a little bit see-through, right? That indicates that I've got them on a layer that the players cannot see. Doink. Until such time as... Rink. And you can put all sorts of different stuff here. You can get creative with it and be like, a giant pillar raises out of the ground, and you have the pillar stashed away on the GM layer until such time as they see it, and then you can add the pillar as like, right? Easy enough. So when you do want to bring them up, you go to the objects and tokens layer, select however you like, please. Oh no, you gotta stay in the GM layer and do this, boink, and then go to the token layer. All right, so that actually brings up the next thing, which is context menus. So you've got a dude, right? Any dude. It's basic token, all basic tokens that you can control. So for you players out there, it's only going to be your own token. You're going to see this guy. This allows you to set all sorts of different states, and I use it all the time with my players, right? Like, that's always blessed. This is always prone. This is Hunter's Mark, right? Like, there are just things I always use. That's inspiration. Failing death saving throws is purple, and then brown, and then red is dead. Boink, 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 boink. So yeah, right. So use that with your team. If you're a player, use it to put on yourself so that you and the GM both remember that you have buffs on your dude, because it's easy to forget. And then you as the DM remember to use it on your own dudes, and then remind your players to use it, because it's a really powerful tool that creates quick visual cues for your dudes so you know what's going on. The other thing you have is the edit token toggle, and what this does is you can choose to have that token represent whatever the poo you want it to represent that already exists within your game, right? So for it to represent something, it has to be in this screen somewhere, right? So any characters you create, any notes you have, any bad guys you import from the SRD, which is as simple as dragging and dropping them, right? Boink! And now it shows up over here, right? Anything else you want to create will show up here, and you can create folders for them. Like if I wanted to create a folder, it'd be like bad guys. Boink. Right? And then I could throw all my goblins, little snob goblins, into the bad guys folder so that they're nice and stored away for when I need them. But yes, so once you click on the token, you can click on edit here, and that allows you to do some really powerful stuff both as a player and as a GM. As a GM, you get this advanced tab, which means you can tell people to see names, you can tell people to see bars, you can set what kind of light they emit, you can set if other people can see that light, you can set if they have sight, which, by the way, you will need to do if you are using advanced lighting. Please remember to click on has sight, or they will not be able to see. Awesome. Okay. So if he emits light, I can just be like, it's 60 foot there, and it dims down to 30 feet. I can then go, all players see light. And then, were this a dark screen, what you'd see is a bright circle out at the 30 foot and a dim circle out at the 60 foot, and everybody could see it, as if he was holding a torch, right? The other thing, and this is for players as well as GMs, is the aura. Oh my god, the aura is so incredibly important. There's lots and lots of powers out there that create an effect that affects multiple people around them in some radius, right? The aura, I very rarely see people use it. We use it in both of my games because it's super helpful, and it's a reminder that you have a neat power that other people can benefit from. You just click in whatever the size of the aura is, let's say 15 feet. I use square because this is on a tactical map that uses squares, and boink! Now there's an aura around him that everybody can see, that moves along with him, and reminds you that he's got this power going on. It's a super simple but super powerful visual reminder of effects that happen to your characters. Anything else in here that matters? Yeah, bars. Okay, so last but not least, you as a player character can track your AC, your health, and I would use this for like sorcery points maybe. Like bar 1 is always my, the green one is always my health, the blue one is always my AC, and then the third one I don't really use all that much, but if I had some with like sorcery points or something like that, I would use them on an NPC. Same goes for players, right? If you put your there's two different ways you can do this. The first is you just top a bad boy in, right? And the second is to go down here and find hit points, wherever that is. I probably passed it. And it'll automatically input whatever your hit points are. Yeah, HP. Boink! Right? You would click on that, it would automatically input the hit points that you have, and then you would be able to modify them as you go through the game, right? And then blue for me is always AC, and that way I, as the GM, can quickly look at your character and go, okay, I'm going to roll a hit, you have an AC 15, I missed, right? Other cool thing about this is, as it says here, you don't need to read all the text, I can just tell you. If I want to give him or remove hit points from him, all I gotta do is press +2, enter, now he's got 9 hit points. Or if he takes an arrow to the face, I can go -9, enter, and blah, we've got a dead goblin, right? Easy peasy. Now, unless you set those bars for the players to see them, DMs, they're not going to see them, which is good because they should know how many hit points their bad guys have. And yeah, that's the basic token 101 stuff. The other thing you can do with tokens is, move them, which is pretty great. But that's about it. That's what tokens do for you, the basic playing piece of the game. All sorts of ways to modify them and add different auras, and if you want to make him look different somehow, you can do that and save changes. And oh no, he's blue, he's the weird one, right? All sorts of different stuff you can play with there. The important thing is that these sorts of tools are there to remind you not only that there are bad guys on the board, but that those bad guys or your good guys have powers and that they should remember them and that's a great tool in Roll20, which just allows you to plop a little visual reminder down in order to allow your players and yourself to remember that there's stuff happening, because a D&D game, especially in combat, can get super hectic. What's next? Okay, so how do you create these sweet tokens for your players? There is an app called Token Tool. Just put it in chat if you want to create your own tokens. I use this all the time for creating my players' tokens, and I will open it right now. This is my big old D&D folder of doom. Tokens. Team Token Tool. Boink. Right, and then I go boink. Open. Do it. Thank you. All right, and so let's say I want to create a new token. I know this isn't technically in Roll20, but give it to me. Well, apparently, at some point recently, I've had this at full screen, and now it's just going to live at full screen, which is fine, because all you've got to do with Token Tool is go to... Doink. That's not right. Ah, there it is. Boink. So many pictures. What if I want me to be my own token? Don't forget, Critical Roles tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern. I can come in, I can zoom out, I'm just scrolling out with my mouse wheel, and turn me into a token, right? So I'll do like, let's do that one, right? Let's not do that one, because some of the tokens, if you look up here in the upper right-hand corner, it's going to show you what it's going to put out. Some of the tokens don't crop off all the stuff around the sides. So find tokens that do, like that one, right? There, token of me. Bard, level 2, maybe, if I'm lucky. And then you just do File, Save Token. I saved to desktop, so I can show you exactly how to just throw these guys in your game. We'll call this Throcky Poo. Throcky Poo. Save. Boink. And now, there is a magic little icon here. That little icon, if I drag and drop in there, it's going to upload it. It's me in the game. Oh my god. Look at that. I'm there, right? So, now you have a player token. You can link that player token to characters. I think only the DMs can do this, if I'm correct. I've never really got to be a player for a long time in Roll20, but I think only DMs can do it. So all you got to do to assign a token to someone, do that. You select a token, doink, right? And you can also make it their profile picture. You would just drag and drop it from the desktop, and boink, make it their avatar as well. But you can literally use any image for that. So yeah, that's it. And then you save changes, right? And then it takes you back to the main character sheet. So now, what I can do is drag and drop myself onto the game. Super easy, and that way you don't have to worry about like presetting stuff up if you're rushing through your game. I always put down the player's tokens beforehand, but if you don't, or you don't have to, that's just my style. You can just drag and drop them. Boink, boink, boink. Or if it's like a quick encounter where you weren't planning on it, you just drag and drop them on. Now there's 4 of me, all attacking these goblins. I'm pretty sure we'll win. I'm a pretty badass goblin killer. What's next? Creating tokens, creating maps. Oh yeah, alright, so creating maps. As I said before, you can click on this little guy over here. Doink! And that'll create a new blank page at the end of your thing. Boink! Click on it, and now you have fresh paper. Graph paper. So there's a number of ways you can create your own maps, or import maps, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Because D&D is all about the play space, right? And when we have to play across distance and time, it's always better to have the best visual sort of presentation that you can to draw your players in. I have found it is so much easier for my players to get kind of bored. Hey Zane, welcome to the stream. Talking a little Roll20 today, how to use it, how to maximize it for DMs and players. Thanks for coming by. So yeah, the first thing here with the maps is I think visual presentation is incredibly important, and not just for streaming, but for your players, because it's super easy to get bored by a blank screen, right? So I try to find interesting ways to either set up my maps or to have good looking maps, and so I'll spend a little bit of money to make sure that I have great looking maps. It's always going to be cheaper than buying dungeon tiles or all that stuff in the real world. So if you're playing online, it's a cheaper way to play the game than playing in person anyways, and that's great for us cost conscious folk. But okay, a couple of different ways to make a map. First is the basic old school, I draw a thing and I have a dungeon, right? So let's say here's the doink. So when you're drawing a line, always right click when you're done with a line, and then you can put down another one. So right click, doink, doink, and the opening comes into a big thing here, right? Doink, 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 and then maybe there's a couple of secret doors, so I can go down to text, get red, put a little S right here. Oop. Not Control S, Shawnee boy. Shift S, doink. S, right? And so I can mark that, and then I can put it on the GM layer so that it is not visible by the players. And then, last thing I can do here, and you can do this with literally anything, you can turn it into a drawing, or maybe you can't turn this into a drawing, it's fine. I don't think text can be turned into a drawing. Maybe it can. But if you mark it there, you know that there's a secret door there, and maybe that secret door leads somewhere else, and you're able to draw your dungeon, right? That's way one. That is the quickest, easiest, and dirtiest way to do it. Boink. The second way to do it is importing maps. Oh, maps. Boink. Maps are my favorite thing on the planet, and I use them for almost everything as a visual. Even when we're like just sitting around talking, there will be a map up, so people have something to like chew on with their eyes that keeps them focused on the game. So if I get rid of this and go to premium assets, right? And we're going to get to the marketplace in a second, but let's say I just wanted to do a quick map. Save versus Cabe, liver thing. This has a bunch of awesome stuff in it, right? If you buy pre-generated maps, and remember, as long as the file is under 10 megabytes, you can literally just drag and drop a map that you've bought from somewhere else onto this table, and it will upload it for you. And then all you gotta do is expand it, boink, like that. Oh god, zoomed that a little too far. And if you guys have any questions as we go along, feel free to just ask. I'll occur. But remember, whenever you upload something, it's automatically going to be on the token page. So you can right-click on the map, send it back to the map layer, and now we have hexes. So the finicky thing about the game, and this you can turn into a drawing, right? Drawing is for maps. Incredibly helpful because it allows you to move this without it locking into specific squares, right? So normally when you put something down, let's go back to the objects and tokens. Let's go grab one of them gobos, right? He will no matter where I put him, he will automatically lock into the center of the nearest square, right? Unless I turn him into a drawing. Now when you turn them into a drawing, they lose all their attribute-y stuff, right? They're no longer a functional token connected to any sort of data output. They're just a thing that you can move around. But it does allow you to more freely move things. Not super helpful for tokens, very helpful for maps and stuff you want to put on maps. Let's get rid of you. Goodbye, Goblin. Go back to our map overlay, map and background. And so however you want to line this up, this isn't perfect, but you guys get what I'm saying. This needs to be a little bit wider for that to be 2x2. That is the second way to do it, right? You find some images, you plop them on, make sure they're under 10 megabytes, size them out to the right size, and you have a ready-made dungeon. You can get a little bit more creative with this as well if you go to all the different stuff that you have in your... This is all the stuff I've bought because I am a whale. But let's say I wanted to put down a scary, ghosty hand that's just sitting in the middle of a thing, right? I can put it on the map layer, and then when my players come through, they can't touch it, right? And you can add all sorts of stuff. There's all sorts of stuff. No, then feel free to hang out, and we can just chat about other D&D stuff too. It's cool. Right now, I'm just going through the very basics of how to use Roll20. Roll20 is the online, way to play D&D and a myriad of other RPGs. But that's your map basics. There's a third way to do it, which we'll get to in a second. I'm going to do a quick sidebar on pointing, because it's really important for lots of things. So if you just hold left click, whatever color is currently chosen... Oh, no, it's not. It randomly assigns it. Never mind. You will be randomly assigned a pinging color, and you're able to ping the map just by left-clicking and holding. Now, for you DMs out there, if I want everyone to look at this hand... Sweet. If I wanted to ping on this hand here, boink, it'll automatically move all the players' vision to it. And I will have... more on players in Roll20 just a second. Yeah, it's actually after I talk about maps. I have like this whole thing I wrote out because I'm a big nerd. So after we talk about putting together maps, we can do a whole section on players and what they can do with their tokens and all that sort of good stuff. And if you guys just want to put some questions in, yeah, Pool, no problem. I'm really happy to do this for you guys. But if you guys want to put some questions in, you should absolutely feel free to, and that way I can start thinking about them as I finish up this last bit of making maps, which is... Let's get rid of this. Maps and backgrounds. Boink, boink, boink. Go away. Go away. Making them from essentially scratch. And what that means is there are a ton of modules in the marketplace. Let's go to the marketplace real quick. Okay, all these things. So, Roll20 has a huge marketplace full of just stuff you can buy, right? That allows you to have little icons, extra tokens, like here's a map, right? I would not buy this map because it is not in my aesthetic style. However, as you can see, normally for $5, you'll get like, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 maps, and a whole bunch of extra pieces that you can put down on other maps if you wanted to. And this is the more time-intensive but more personalized way for you GMs and DMs out there to create maps, right? You can either start with like a basic... Where's a good basic one? Other pro sets. Where's a good basic one? Essential Nature Libraries. Yeah, so here we go. Here's a basic creepy forest floor tile. It's night. It's dark in the Feywild. We're in the Shadowlands. Right? I can just put down whatever my basic game mat is, and then I can start populating it with stuff. Remember, all of these things can turn into drawings, which is what you want to do if you want to not have them snap to a position. Right? And then you could maybe have a log over here next to whatever that is. Yeah, and that's the other way to do it. There's also a ton of tools for creating dungeons as well. I have some. Is this one? Yeah, Maps and Castle Construction Set, right? So if I really felt like it, I could take the time to use all these little guys and build my own boink, whatever. And I could have these all connected together and create rooms out of them and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Maybe you've got a multi-layered building, and so it starts with a roof on top, and then there's like 2 floors beneath it. The tools are in here to do whatever you want to do to make your own maps, right? I find it easiest to do pre-generated maps for most encounters because it's saving you as the GM time, which is kind of the point of a tool like this, and giving you the ability to think about some of the more gubbins-y bits. The more actual mechanical, like how is my stuff going to roll out during a fight or during any sort of encounter, right? But it's up to you. There are a lot of different ways to slice the map creation apple. Last thing on maps, there's a couple of great map makers out there. One of them is free, although it now has a premium version as well. It's called Incarnate. Here's a link to that. Boink. It's a little bit simpler, but it creates a very pretty map. This is for overland maps, right? There is, I think, a city builder in the pro version, and that's Incarnate with a K.com. But it is primarily for overland maps and puts out some incredibly gorgeous looking maps, all within a single visual style, though. If you want to get extra fancy schmancy and you have a bunch of different styles for map making, and want to spend some money because this is not cheap. It's probably for you to get the CC, the campaign cartographer, and then a couple of different modules for it. It's probably going to cost you $125. So you want to be dedicated to your game before you're ready to do that. But Pro Fantasy Software makes campaign cartographer and city cartographer and dungeon cartographer, all of which are these incredibly powerful Photoshop-like tools to create maps and dungeons and fun stuff like that. For example, real quick, let's go to my my games. Boink. Load. Okay, there we go. And let's go to my Welcome to the Party game, where I just slapped a new map down yesterday. Launch game. Bloody owl. Music isn't too loud, is it? I felt like a little background music would be helpful rather than just kind of droning on all by myself. This map was created in Campaign Cartographer, right? So you can do all sorts of stuff with it. Also, this map was created in Campaign Cartographer. I'm not as good at building city maps yet, so overland maps I feel like I've got a handle on, but city map, right? So, like I said, Campaign Cartographer, incredibly powerful tool. Incarnate, a little bit less powerful, but also free, so it has its own advantages. Okay, so players, let's focus on you guys for a little bit and talking about how you can maximize your character sheet and use it really well for gaming, how to use your token as a tool, all that sort of fun stuff. Kind of touched it a little bit before, but we can really go into it now. I'm going to open up a separate game for this actually as well. Let's go back to here because I got a bunch of characters there. Oh, well, thank you. And then we'll launch game. Boink. Load. Thank you. All right, so let's go to any page. We'll go to, I don't want to, we'll do that one because there's nothing going on that one. Okay, so you guys are familiar with this. It's the same map we saw before. All right, let's pull out a character. Dr. Jenkins Hollycraft. This was the Nancy Druids character in a one-shot I ran a little bit ago. So if I open up her character sheet, doink, doink. I have all my character sheets set up, first of all, so that the players can toggle whether they're rolling for advantage, normal, or disadvantage. And please be kind to your GM or DM, and don't roll with advantage when you don't have advantage. It can be not great. I'm just saying. So, right here, we have the very basics of your D&D character sheet, right? First thing we're going to talk about for you guys is how to input attacks. Super simple. If I want to create a new attack, I just click plus, right? And I'll be like, I have a long sword. Long sword. And we'll make this the one-handed version, right? I attack with strength because I am a strength attacker. I am proficient. A longsword one-handed does 1d8 damage and does strength as bonus damage, right? So that's what all this means, right? This is your output. This is what it's going to roll to attack. This is what it's going to roll to damage. If you have other stuff that it can do, you can add extra damage here. Like you have a flaming sword, so it does 1d6 fire damage, and you would put that here as type fire, right? Here for a longsword, you would put slashing. I think it's slashing, whatever. So that is your basic weapon input, right? And so all you got to do then is, I have these popped out, don't I? Do I not? Okay. Where did you go, Mr. Character Sheet? Boink. All you got to do now is, boink, click on it. And I have down here, it would have hit someone. Sorry, what are you in the way of? I don't know. Okay. Okay, Shogun, you're in the way. I don't know of what. And then when you go for damage, just click that bad boy, and it tells you how much damage it does. In this case, 5 slashing, 6 fire. If you click on the attack on your character sheet again, it's just going to show you the character sheet. It's just going to roll to attack again. So you're not going to get damage if you roll that again. Damage happens on the chat bar, or the roller as I call it, and you click on longsword, boink, puts out fire. Rawr. Thing 1. That's an easy peasy attack. Okay, so for you spellcasters out there, how do I do that? Oh, you're in roll 20 messing with your character. Oh, right on. That shouldn't matter right now. It should be fine. All right, so for you spellcasters out there, what you can do for any spell that's in the SRD, right? Actually, I should pop this back in. It'll be more easy to do. Yeah. Pop in? How do I do that? I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. Should be fine. All right, so what you can do is look up that spell, Magic Missile, right? And instead of having to write everything in, if it's in here, right, this is the little black SRD button that we talked about at the beginning, you can just drag and drop it, right? Boink, accept and drop from Compendium. This character now has Magic Missile. When I click on the little thingy here, it tells me what it is, that it's prepped. It's evocation, cast one action, 120 feet, visual, verbal, and somatic components. I can also tell it what I want it to do when I click on it, either here or on the front page. It can either output a spell card or output an attack. As it is an attack, you want it to output an attack. And then you can tell it how much damage it does to start, how much damage it does over every additional level, and if the spell isn't in the SRD, you can put all this stuff in yourself. It just takes more time. You can show my character sheet to show how to do it wrong. Okay, I will do that. Cool. So then, when I go to Core, I can click on Magic Missile again. And because Magic Missile always hits, it'll ask me what level I want to cast it at, and then I'll roll damage. Man, I'm rolling great Magic Missile damage. That was the last one I rolled earlier on. It was like 14. That is excellent level 1. I killed 2 goblins with that. It blew through one goblin and hit the other one. But yeah, that's your basic spell input and your basic attack input. Does all of that make sense? Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. Okay, so next up for you all player types. Here, you're going to have 2 things to use. We talked about this earlier, but just go over it again. To remember if you have buffs, to remember if you have some sort of state on you, or if you're on fire, use these. They are a good visual reminder of whatever is happening to your character at the time, right? I think they're important and very helpful. And then the other great thing for you guys, I think, because it's going to help you and it's going to help your DM, is if you put your hit points in here. Boink. I always put hit points in green, like let's say she has 16 hit points out of 27 hit points. It will now show a bar above her head with how many hit points she has. I can also input her AC, which is like 12, right? 11. Wow, yeah, because caster, right? Low-level caster, 11. And so that way, as a GM, whenever I click on this, I can see your AC at a glance. I can see your hit points at a glance, and you will be able to know both at a glance as well. Now, I think they've included the functionality where it automatically updates this on your token now. Let's find out. It does not. I don't know if her token's actually linked to her character. But that's the other thing you can do. There is a way to immediately link your HP on the character sheet to your token. Let me take a look at her character again. Boink. Edit. No, I don't know why it's not working. I'm not perfect. But for basic play and for help for you and your GM, do that. You're helping everyone. Now, the other players can't see that bar. The other players can't see your AC. So you'll still need to communicate with them. Like, I feel like on a scale of 1 to 27, I'm like at 14 and it hurts, right? And then this last one for like sorcerers and stuff, I'll use for like key, or I'll use for like sorcerer points or whatever, right? Cool. So let's take a look now that we're here at Shan's character, because awesome. Just to, where are we at? Characters. Boink. Are you Grix? You're Grix, right? Blood owl. Alright. Oh no, Grix is Shogun's character. Ioti Foebreaker, I believe, is. There we go. Yeah. Alright. So, what did you do? Yeah, so you don't have any attacks on here yet. And the easiest way to do that. Yeah, no, Shogun's Grix, yep. So that's the first thing I would do is, and you always mark out your current hit points. Is this because you hadn't, and your AC is gonna need to be higher You're a barbarian? I will tell you, as a barbarian, you probably want a higher wisdom score. Just saying. It's going to help your AC, right? Something above 10 to knock that up. You can also carry a shield if you want to give you a +2. But that's up to you. Unless you're just going to be like a death whirlwind of, not caring if you get hit. Which is also fine. Play it the way you want. I'm just letting you know. You get AC bonus for wisdom as a barbarian. He's got 19 constitution. He's got 148 hit points, and when he's no, okay, I'm sorry, has 148 hit points, and when raging only takes half damage. So she really has 296 hit points when raging. That's ridiculous. Barbarians don't need as much HP as they get. I'm just saying. Yeah. They are incredible tanks. They are by far the most survivable character in the game. Oh, Con gives AC. Oh, then your AC is wrong because... No, your AC is just right. You have a dexterity of... You're right. Con is the additional AC for you. You're right. I'm shutting up. I have been told and corrected. I mostly play monks and bards, so it's okay. But yeah, so it'd be your constitution plus dexterity, so your AC is correct. Snarky doesn't trust easily. Those are great. Features and traits are good. Most of this is right. That longsword you would put in here, right? I'm going to let you do it so you can learn how to do it. But this is where you would put that. And then your light hammer. And whatever else you want to take that is an attack output. You would throw it in there. And then you don't have spells because you're a whatever. And then, hey, look. You filled out some stuff on your bio page. I love you so much. Yeah. Oh, Iote's a dude. Okay. I don't know. I don't know people, man. Right on. Because mutton chops. I would assume dude. Doesn't matter. Could be a lady with mutton chops. Because dwarf. I guess it's true. I have no idea. But yeah. So your character actually looked mostly right, except for your weapon outputs. Good job. What else do players... for players on the thing here... Oh, okay. Just because a dwarf can have lady mutton chops. It totally makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm there. I love monks, Zane. Love them. They are my second favorite class in the game. They're just goodness on a stick. They're fun because you get to roll a lot of attacks, right? A lot of attacks. You can roll like 5 attacks a turn, if you felt like it, at like 5th level, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, it's one of the reasons why I love them. And then bards, because they are the ultimate utility character. They can fight, they can cast, they can do all sorts of fun stuff. All right. I totally think Gal dwarfs can have rocking beards. I don't disagree with you at all. I forgot that you were a dwarf when I did that. Okay, so the next thing actually is also really important for players. When rolling for initiative, DMs, you've got a little tracker over here. That's not the tracker. It's the clock. You got a little tracker over here, right? Doink. That's got turn order. When rolling for initiative, always remember to click on your token and then click on initiative. That is how it gets input into the thingy. If you don't do that, it would actually put Iote's, or in this case Jenkins' initiative in twice, but it won't put it in at all because I didn't click on her token. Save the bookkeeping, click on your token, and then click on initiative. Same goes for you GMs, but for you GMs, you can do something a little bit different as well. So here we have a War Priest. I'll just throw him down. What are you setting up for your players, Sean? Why is there a War Priest? I don't know. I have my War Priest selected. DMs, you just click on their name on the SRD output, and that's going to throw them into your turn order. Bladow. Right? This is not a pet peeve for me. I don't mind inputting people's initiative, but it is super helpful to not have to, like... I mean, we have a tool. We should use it, and it's really helpful to just... And then, as a DM, what you can do is you can go in and set them descending. There's also a tiebreaker if that's what you care about, but I don't... If there's a tie for, like, if this character and one of the other player characters went at a 3, I would let them choose which one wants to go first. I would also let players go before NPCs on a tie, unless there is some very specific reason that the NPC should go first. But mostly, I always go in favor of the player on stuff like that. What else for tokens? Do I have anything else here? We talked about the gubbins. We talked about editing tokens. We talked about these. We talked about. One last thing for players. I don't know who was here for this the first time around, but you can create an aura. So let's say I'm a cleric, or I'm a paladin, and I give people that passive plus 1 or 2 buff, right, within 30 feet of me radius, right, 15 foot square. Save changes. Bloodow! They do. They actually. So the Star Wars, I haven't played. If it's Fantasy Flight, I don't. I know they have a Fantasy Flight character sheet, and I know they have the dice that you can use in the system. I can't for the life of me remember. I played Edge of the Empire like 5 or 6 years ago when it first came out. And I don't remember at all how initiative works in that, but we could totally figure it out off stream and make sure it happens. Castle Mac Crew, what's going on? We're just talking about Roll20. How you guys doing tonight? So yeah, make sure if you have auras to put them up, so both for you to remember and your buddy players to remember and the GM to remember. And that's something you as the player can set. You don't have to ask the GM to do it. Okay, and for players, you should remind your GMs about, if you can't see, if they're using dynamic lighting, what they forgot to do was click Has Sight. It's pretty easy to forget. Pretty easy. So remind them to click Has Sight so that they can actually see on your board. Zang. Zang. All right. Anything else on tokens? Any questions as I go to the next thing here? I've actually done initiative too. Awesome. Okay. So, initiative is done. Tokens is done. Let's go over the basic settings here. Yeah, that's what's next. All right. So we've talked about moving your map around. We've talked about the layers. We've talked about drawing and characters you can draw too. And you should if you are trying to get clarity on where something is. The next thing is a fun little tool for GMs. Ooh, Legion. Painting Legion 4 of us. Oh, 4 of you chilling right now. Hey, fam. What's going on, Castle Mac fam? So, fun little things GMs can do. You can create all sorts of effects. Blarg. Blarg. Right? You've got beams, you've got bombs. You've got breath weapons. I just love playing with this too. Bubbling. And if you hold it down, it'll keep doing it, which is pretty neat. What else do we have? Burn. I don't know what burn does. Oh, it's like a... Sometimes noises. Explosion. Glow. Interesting. That's not any different than bubble, right? That's not any different than bubble. Okay. I mean, not really. Missile. Now we're just playing. Nova, which is a big bomb, apparently. And then... Splatter. Splurch. Blah. Oh, blood comes out of him. And then you can create your own custom ones. I have no idea how to do that. I don't really use these all that much because I'm already managing sound and players and stuff. But if you find that you have a third hand somewhere, you should totally use that as well. Next thing, and this is for everybody, rulers are best. Oh, I love rulers. You wanna measure stuff? Measuring is very, very helpful. So when you measure, always start on your character. Your character is considered the 0 square, and as you go out in any direction, it will tell you how far away it is. Super helpful, right? 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15. Yada! Right? Super easy, very helpful, great way to make sure that, someone's in range without having to, count a bunch of squares, which can be a pain, especially because on Roll20, sometimes you can't see the squares all that well unless you kick the opacity all the way up. Boink, which on gray doesn't really matter, but if I made it red, boink. Cha? Oh, no, huh? Oh, it's because I was working on the wrong map. Boink. right? But you don't want that. You want a cool visual sort of presentation to keep your players engaged and interested and not looking at their cell phones the whole time. So I kind of keep it toned down. And then, use the ruler. It's helpful for everyone. Oh, what it doesn't help you do, and by the way, I don't use oddly measured diagonals. I used to, but I play it easy, right, these days, and I'm here to have fun with my players, and so I don't do the this is 5 feet, this is 15 feet, this is 20 feet. So you'll see that my rulers are set up for that. Last but not least, if you have, so there's one other version of line of sight, and it is called Fog War. Boink, enabled. Okay, so GMs, DMs, all you fun folk out there, when you turn on Fog of War, right now this player character can't see poop because nothing has been revealed to them. You have to reveal it for them, right? And so you click on Reveal Areas, you draw it over an area, and platow, it's revealed, right? So let's say this guy's walking down the street, and this is where the encounter begins. I can say, you see a street. All the way down. And a road going off in this direction. And oh god, there's some sort of war priest there. What's he doing? Roar! Right? And that's what they would see. They would see this kind of cross. And that's it. And then as they moved about, you would just open it up for them. From a player's perspective, they're not seeing a light gray box, they're seeing black. So I have many friends who are players who I play with who get frustrated when all they can see is black. Now sometimes when you load the game and it looks black to the player, it's because the map is not centered on the player. Shift and hold left click while you've got your cursor selected. And that will center, oh, I have to actually zoom in because I'm zoomed all the way out, so it won't center on shit! So shift and left click, beep, and it'll move you right over to them. Easy peasy. I hope so. So, before I go into putting it together on OBS, which is the last section here, I want to open it up for questions from players or DMs about the general... Oh, wait, you know what? There's actually one more thing. There's a couple of things on the right-hand bar here I did not talk about that's helpful for everyone. So, of course, we've got chat here. As the GM, you can speak in different voices with this little drop-down here. So, if you're playing like a play-by-text game, which some people do, you can just kind of type whatever in there, and when it comes out, you'll see, look, a little Incubus guy. It says, Incubus says, Lisadlik. And then you can just go back to GM when you're typing for yourself and say something else, like Wajdsum. Yes? Okay. Next thing up, this is for GMs. This is where everything you upload in terms of icons and maps and all sorts of stuff goes onto this page. This is your, what do they call it? Art library page. It is divided into 2 sections. Section 1 is all the stuff you buy, all the stuff that's free, and you get a bunch of free stuff too, so it's totally worth signing up for Roll20 just for the free stuff. Pro stuff for if you have subscribed, such as myself, and then anything you have bought from the marketplace. This is I have 2,000 hours in Roll20, so I maybe have a lot of stuff that I've bought over time. But really, as a starting out DM, if you were to make marketplace purchases, I would focus on maps. Map stuff. Because you've got a free token maker, just worry about maps. If you are subscribed, you've also already got templates, so you don't need to worry about templates. Just buy a couple of maps you think look nice. And you've already got some relatively free ones if you're subscribing with these bros over here. So give yourself a little bit extra, like dungeon and stuff like that. There's actually some gorgeous dungeon maps out there. There's a library one that I love to death and always makes an appearance. One of those maps always makes an appearance in every one of my games. There's the Ruins one that I showed you guys earlier. It's also really gorgeous. Also, all of those maps, and there's like 12 of them, make an appearance in a bunch of my different games because they just look good and they're easily reusable because they're non-thematic, which I think, especially for a starting DM, is important to just have kind of a basic tool set. And they are primarily $5 a piece for like 12 maps and a ton of assets. Learn of the booty. Wiggity woogity. Ren O'Hara, 94. We speak of booty and win treasure and lady booty and guy booty, whatever you like. It's all good. Anything else there? Oh, yeah. And then the other one is your My Library, which is where all your uploads go. Of which I have a lot. It's cool, whatever, shut up. But they will all be there, and it's across all your games, across your account. And you can upload, and you can add folders, and you can do all the same things you can do here. So for you characters out there, you might be interested to see that there's a lot more going on than your characters in the journal page. The journal is where the GM keeps all of the notes that have been imported into Roll20, all of the maps that have been imported from like modules into Roll20, all of the bad guys that he or she is using in Roll20, all live in this page, right? Yeah, you can once again create folders. I have an archive of old characters because this is my general one-shot account. And then here's the other thing for you DMs really quick is handouts. So I use a lot of handouts in my games because, once again, visually interesting. It keeps a player who's sitting in front of a computer screen interested and captivated. So any image can be turned into a handout. All you've got to do is, where is it? Here, blink, blink. I can copy that to library, which will put it in here. And then to show it to people, I can go edit. Oh no, I just have to go show to players. A random Nemi has appeared. I can just click on that, and players will see it. Actually, you gotta right click on it. I'm sorry. Show to players. Show to everyone. Boink. And so everyone will see Aiello, my favorite little raven dude who talks and is in love with a Eric Kokra in a Valentine's game I ran earlier this year. But yeah, so remember to use handouts because handouts are going to allow you to kind of help with the theater of the mind aspect of the game as well. Next up is the SRD. Everyone, we've talked about the SRD and how important it is. This is the place where you find all the rules, most of the spells, and most of the class stuff. So if you have a question about a rule and you're not sure, you can just be like, critical roll. Critical? Yeah, combat, critical hit. And it will bring up the rule for critical hits. What-da? All the rules of life at your fingertips. Yes. That's actually bringing it up within the combat section. So if you want to find anything else in the combat section, you can do it right there. Super simple stuff because I think at this point, Wizards of the Coast has an agreement with Roll20 because they're now uploading a bunch of their modules. Like I use the Tomb of Annihilation module on here. I use a Storm King's Thunder module on here. I know they've got Strahd. I know they've got Princes of Annihilation. They have Out of the Abyss. They have Out of the Abyss. And then they just added Tiamat as well. Ooh, Nemi has my army. Yes. We shall conquer. Today we are conquering technology. And then DMs. You can create music. All sorts of playlists. I don't actually use this anymore. I use Sirenscape. Which we can talk about some other time. But if you don't want to use Sirenscape and you don't want to use another program, it's very easy to go in here, add songs. You can start by adding a playlist. In this case, my only playlist is stuff like Def Leppard and Meatloaf because this playlist was for a Valentine's Day game. I think there's the Pussycat Dolls in here, which is pretty great. But yeah, it's actually really easy to look up tracks. And if you go to Fanburst, you can find most music, although you should be careful about copyright infringement. Twitch is not too bad about it. YouTube, if you upload them, will censor the living crap out of your videos if you're using copyrighted songs. I am not a legal expert, but I'm pretty sure it's not illegal to stream a song through your headphones onto Twitch, but I might be wrong. However, always better to be safe than sorry, which is why I've gone to Fantasy Grounds. Where you can still get great music in the cans, great music to share with your friends. And then, however, Battle Bards and Tabletop Audio both have deals with Roll20 where a ton of their music is uploaded onto here. So if you just want to create thematic songs, all you gotta do is like, I want to play an Elven Dirge. I add it, and now it's down here all by itself, and then I can drop it in a folder. You can listen to previews of all the songs. It's very easy to use. The only time it gets frustrating is it is time intensive to create playlists. And I think that's true no matter what. But I think sound, and some of my players disagree with me, but some of my players love it, is an incredibly important part of the role-playing experience for me, right? Having an awesome soundtrack, occasionally using sound effects, using voices, all of these things to me add to the immersion experience of the game. Most of my players agree. I have a few grumpkins who aren't into it, but mostly they're cool with it. And it's my game, so I'm going to DM it however the hell I want. Next up, this is macros. I know almost nothing about macros, so I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't really use them. I've never had a need for them. There are macros that can do all sorts of stuff if you want to check them out. Everything from initiative tracking to, like, there's a Throck deck. There's all sorts of different stuff you can do. It essentially automates the process of outputting data from character sheets and bad guys and random tables and all of those things. I do use pre-generated macros in my Tomb of Annihilation game. For random tables, because I've decided to add a little more randomness to that game. But those already existed. I am not technically adept at building code because I'm not a detail-oriented human being, and so me writing macros would just lead to endless frustration for me, and then they would still never get used. But people who are into that sort of thing should totally check out the macros, because they're a really powerful tool that can allow you to customize your game if it is something that you have the bandwidth and patience for. I am just not that person. Last but not least, and this there's a couple of things in here for everyone. There's a couple of things in here that are just DM things. Players, remember, you can turn down your music if it's too loud and they're running through, if they're running the sound through Roll20. You've got a little volume slider here. Boink, 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 boink. You can always change your display name. I like to change it to whatever my character's name is, so Bob, right? And that will change your name in the lower left-hand corner to Bob. And then a couple of other bits in here. So you've got all your video and chat options and all those things. I don't use video or chat on Roll20 because they have not been stable for me. It's a great platform for a ton of things. It is not a great video and chat platform, or a video and voice chat platform, at least in my experience. There are people who do use it, and they have a lot of success with it. I just have never, ever had success with it. So your mileage may vary. So I just turn all this stuff off and use Discord. And the reason I like Discord, by the way, is because when you hop in it, you and everybody who's in your party, as the GM, you're able to adjust their volume granularly, and you don't have to play with weird outputs through your OBS or XSplit or whatever in order to kind of get everyone's levels the same. Because that's the last, but one of the most important things, one of the most important things I wanted to talk about tonight for streaming GMs, sound. This also goes for players, right? If we cannot hear you, we cannot tell what's going on. D&D is as much auditory as it is visual, right? It's this is going to sound super highfalutin, but D&D and other role-playing games are very much a modern bardic tradition, right? We are storytelling around a campfire with dice and maps to help out, like with the theater of the mind, right? So if I can't hear you tell the story, if I can't hear what your character's doing as a player or as a DM, then I'm not going to be engaged as a viewer, and I'm probably going to get really frustrated as a DM, as I have in the past with people I can't hear. Discord helps solve that problem a little bit with the volume, but there are still people who are very quiet. So if you're thinking as a streamer or a player about wanting to be nice to other players and GMs, make sure to test your microphone. There are completely inexpensive, indeed free, recording software out there to just test it real quick, right? Like Audacity. Audacity is free. You just click a little red button and it's gonna, you pick your output for whatever is recording, click a little red button, you'll see it go up and down. You can see how loud you are as you play it back through your headphones or whatever, and then you'll know whether or not you're that person who no one can hear. I think cameras are still important, but not as important as being able to hear you, right? So I have a Logitech C920. You don't need, that is a high definition camera, which is kind of a baseline. I want to be a professional streamer, which I actually have no interest in being a professional streamer. I like having a role-playing community, but it's a nice camera. You don't need one that is that good. You just need, a camera that people can see. I do have Discord. Yeah, it's actually down in the description. If you click on the little Discord link, it should work. Hopefully. Knock on wood. Anything else in Roll20? Any questions about Roll20 before I move on to the very last thing, which is pretty much only for the DM, unless someone else is streaming your game. It's for the person streaming your game. I will minimize that. I will close that. And I will bring up OBS. Okay. So last thing you need to know as a streaming GM or a streaming player streaming for a group is how Roll20 integrates with OBS. I use OBS, other people use XSplit. The fundamentals are essentially the same, right? Actually, yeah, that should be fine. We'll make that full screen. Doink. Okay. All right. So, when you're streaming, all you need to do to have a stream that looks good is make sure that everyone can see your cameras. Don't overflood with a whole lot of graphics. Make it simple. Have some negative space because it allows people to kind of focus in on things without eye strain, and it's just good design to have some space to skip through. And the easiest way to do that is to create a PNG. If you know anything about, like, you can go into Paint and save as a PNG. It's actually weirdly easier to do in PowerPoint, I have found. But like I said, I'm not the most technically adept human being on the planet. But there are people who make gorgeous overlays. And so if you have the money, and it does cost money, you can get yourself a gorgeous overlay made, or you have an awesome human being who you know who can make them for you. You can get them made. So, for example, I'm going to show you guys how to just really quickly set up a quick D&D stream. I don't see it. I'm MDM. Oh, okay. So for this, we have... Let's turn off my screen, and so you can just see... We'll turn on the map. We'll turn off my screen, which is... Where is it? Am I in the wrong thing? I'm not. Okay, we'll just use this one. Easy peasy. All right, so I'm going to turn off studio mode here for a second. Okay, I'm going to transition and turn off studio mode so that what you guys see is this overlay. Oh, thank you, Castle Mac. That's fucking shit. That is awesome. All right. Thank you for the 100 bits, dude. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about how to set up Yo Stream. So this is my Tomb of Annihilation folder in OBS. I'm not going to use this overlay. I'm actually going to use my new... Use that one. So let's get rid of that. Okay. All right. So putting Roll20 into OBS is as easy as creating 2 window captures or browser captures. I use browser capture. Some people use window capture. It depends. I think it really kind of depends on which browser you're using for all my Roll20. Roll20 seems to work best for me on Firefox, so that's what I use. But test Firefox and Chrome. It only works on Firefox and Chrome. So test Firefox and Chrome. Whichever one it works better for you on is the one you should use. But there's 2 big notes about how this happens, right? So you create a browser source. I already have one created. I named it as map. As map, right? I right-click on that. I go to properties. I tell it what to look at. Because it's OBS and it's free open source software, you have to tell it to look at something else first, and then look back at it, and now you've got it, right? And so what I did, or actually what the Amazing Miss Kimages did, not me, because I have no graphic design skills whatsoever, is cut a big hole in the center of this image that allows me to just show this. Now, when it first shows up, it's going to be raw, essentially, right? It's going to be the full browser. But what you can do is if you, in OBS, press Alt and click on one of these little red guys here, you can make it smaller. You can cut it however you need. And if you don't click Alt, you can make it as big or as small as you like, right? So that's actually relatively easy. You'll see the whole browser window pop up. You will find the red dots. You will cut to bring them in. And then you will resize by just left-clicking and holding on one of the red dots without pressing Alt, because that would still cut it, to whatever size you need. Now, as a streaming DM, what I try to do is keep the bars here and the names that are down here on the lower left-hand side. You don't actually see them. The bars that you guys remember on the right-hand side, actually, I can probably show them to you. Yeah, let's see this. Boink. So the bars that are here, right, I cut those out. And then the names that are on the lower left-hand corner, I cut those out. Boink. And then you also don't see the roller, right? Which is hanging out over here. So what I can do then is I can set this up so what the viewer sees is only the core of the action and none of the gubbins on the sides, because they don't need to see that. It's not enhancing their viewing in any way. In fact, it probably detracts from it, because instead of seeing the action that's going on and listening to the players, now they're following your cursor, and like as you look through these drop-down menus and there's like random stuff going on down here, they don't need to see that. All they really need to see is what's happening on the screen. Second thing is the roller. There's probably, it's the chat box, I guess. I don't know, but I call it the roller. And I have one of those set up as well. There. Boop. So again, you just right-click on it, go to Properties, tell it what to look at. You have to switch off of it, switch back on, at least if you're me. I don't know if that's how it works for everyone, but that's how it works for me. Sometimes it may just load, you might be lucky, and then block down, it's there. Now, this is fun. Check this out, team. So right now, I have totally normal, random block of things. Later, Castle Mac, I will talk to you soon, and please do watch the VOD. That would be awesome. Alright, so right now I just have a normal chunk of text that's hanging out in front of a block, right? But what I can do is I go into Properties, or I go into Filters. Yeah, I go into Filters, and then I start playing with it. I'm going to key this off Custom Color, and I want it to stay as clear, which is 0000 FF00, and then I just want to start screwing with the contrast and the similarity and the smoothness until I get to a point where it is... Is it this way? Oh, I don't know why it's not doing it. What is your deal, B? Okay, I have another one that actually works, so I can show it to you. As roller, as front, it's probably on top somewhere. What? Why aren't you working? Roar! Okay, one sec. Let's just do that one. Video capture device. Delay capture. Yeah, okay, here we go. This makes more sense. All right, so you can see here. So if I go down to my roller, boink, and I do this, properties, and then I go click off of it, click onto it. It's going to show up here, and lo and behold, it is see-through. Why is it see-through? Because I went here, and I started playing with the... I went to custom color because what it's doing is it's keying this key color as a custom color, is keying off whatever is behind the image, right? And so now that it's kind of looking at that, I can start playing around with the similarity. I don't know why the last one didn't do it. That was fucking weird. To kind of wash it out or bring it in, essentially what you're looking to do is create that effect right there, right? And all you got to do is play with contrast, brightness, similarity, and smoothness until you get to a mix that gives you the text but none of the background color. It takes a little playing with and a little bit of experimentation to get it just right for whatever your background is, but I think, and this is not my idea, by the way, I have seen other players use this, or other DMs use this and other channels use this, and I literally just stole it from them. In fact, one of them, the amazing Askren from Exploding Dice, told me how to do it. So this is a common convention amongst streaming, is to find a way to output the data from your roller in a more visually pleasing way, in this case, on a scroll, or in the case of the other one on a tablet, although that's actually the old overlay, which is why it didn't work. I just realized I should just delete that. But yeah. That's the last couple of things. Oh, one very final and very important safety tip, actually, before we say goodbye for the stream, because I'm also losing my voice, because I've been talking for an hour and a half straight. All right, so we got this here, right? Your Roll20 map and roller need to be in their own tab, because if they're not, this happens. If I click on any other tab that's connected to them, it's going to flip off of it, which is bad because then you lose whatever you were trying to look at, right? So make sure, just as a safety precaution, to have Roll20 up in its own thing, you may need to, if you forget to pull it out like I did, you may need to boink and then come back to it, right? And then it's there. Padow. Same goes for any video program you're using, whether it's Skype or Appearin or Zoom. If somebody's camera turns off, if you minimize it, if any of those things happen, it's going to screw up their setup, and you're going to have to go back in and manually recreate it. And we're only talking about Roll20 today. So what I tend to do is run Roll20 on a single tab in Firefox, and everything else in Chrome, which is the thing I normally use. Firefox just happens to work better for me for Roll20. And that's the last thing, is don't forget to detach your Roll20 tab from everything else so you don't accidentally screw up your stream. Now, you can minimize it and it will stay, right? Just don't have it in tab browsing, because that way you'll just screw it up, and that's no fun for anyone. And that's it. That's the whole stream. Any questions before I head off for the evening to go play some video games and watch Critical Role? Last chance. Well, thank you guys. I had a lot of fun doing this tonight. I'm glad some people came out. I'm glad you guys found some utility out of it. We're going to be back tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. for Heart of Darkness, our Tomb of Annihilation game with my lovely stream friends. So I hope to see you then. And until then, have a great party.